some arguments, well, they just never end, right? I mean, you know what I'm talking about. You bring a fact and it bounces off the person, or you bring a better one and it bounces off them as well. 20 minutes later, well, nobody has moved an inch in the argument. And there's one question, though, that cuts through almost, well, all of it in about 5 seconds. And the strange part is that it works just as well on you as on the person you're arguing with. Hi, I'm Alan Stafford, and I help people think clearly in a noisy world. And this is Think Sharper. All right, so this video is for anyone who keeps getting pulled into arguments that, well, go in circles. You know what I'm talking about, right? Family dinners, group chats, you know, that meeting that will never end. So by the time we're done with this video, you're going to have a single question that tells you fast whether the person across from you is actually reasoning or just guarding something they were never going to give up anyway. And hopefully you'll know how to use it without turning into the most annoying person in the room. Here's the question. What would change your mind? And that's the whole tool. See, you're asking the other person to name the evidence that would make them admit they were wrong. And the belief you can actually trust always has an answer because, well, it has an off switch. See, if someone reasoned their way to a position, they know what it's resting on, so they can tell you what would knock it over. And look, this isn't even new. See, last century, a philosopher named Karl Popper asked, what separates real science from the stuff that only sounds scientific? And he landed on almost exactly this. See, a claim earns your trust when it, well, sticks its neck out, when it tells you in advance what would prove it wrong. And his favorite example was astrology. Picture a horoscope, if you will, okay? And it says, today calls for caution. So if your day goes badly, well, it warns you, right? Or if your day goes well, then your caution paid off. See, it reads as a win either way, which means it never really predicted anything. And that's the giveaway right there, my friend. When a claim stays friendly with every possible outcome, well, its hits, they stop counting for much because it was never taking a real risk. Now, I want to be fair because Popper isn't the last word on this here. Philosophers have argued for decades that in real life, you can almost always rescue a shaky idea with one more excuse. So this is not really a clean lie detector. So think of it as let's say a flashlight, not a courtroom. It doesn't prove who's right. It just shows you rather quickly whether there's even a real conversation to have with the person. So before you aim this at anyone else, aim it at yourself first. Pick something you argued about this week and answer honestly, okay? What would change your mind about it? Just what would change your mind about it? If you can name something specific, well, hey, that's good. You're actually holding a position. But if your honest answer is, well, nothing, you can't answer anything specific about what you're pretty much arguing about, or you feel yourself getting annoyed that the question is even allowed, sit with that for a second, my friend. So you just caught yourself doing the exact thing that drives you up the wall and other people. You see, I do this and it's humbling. See, there are opinions I was sure were airtight. And when I asked myself, what would actually change my mind? I came up empty, which meant I wasn't really reasoning. I was rooting, okay? And doing it in this order matters for a practical reason as well. Once you've felt that squirm yourself, you stop using the question as a trap and start using it as a real question. See, people can feel the difference, okay? A trap makes them dig in. A real question, well, that opens them up. Okay, so when a belief has no off switch, the person defending it still has to say something when you ask what would change their mind. And it tends to come out as one of 4 moves. And once you can hear them, you basically, well, have the X-ray vision, for lack of better words, for this weak argument of theirs, okay? So the first one is known as the sealed vault, and they would say nothing would change my mind, just flat out tell you that. And sometimes they say it proudly, like it proves how strong their conviction is. I mean, it proves the opposite, actually. They just told you no evidence can get in. That's not a position you're talking to. It's a locked room with a face. And the second tell is known as the moving goalpost. See, you hand over exactly the evidence they asked for, and instead of budging, they slide the line. They say something like, that study was too small. Fine, well, here's a bigger study. They say something like, well, who funded it then? See, every time you clear the bar, well, quietly goes up. So if truth were the goal, meeting their standard would settle it, okay? But when it never settles, the standard was really never the point. And tell 3 is known as no true Scotsman. This one's sneaky because it sounds like a standard. Listen to this, okay? Whatever example you give gets defined out of existence. The other person might say something like, that's not a real scientist, or that's not a real supporter. And we've heard people say things like this, right? See, the philosopher Anthony Flew nailed this back in the 1970s. If you say no Scotsman would do such a thing, then meet a Scotsman who did, and suddenly it's no true Scotsman would do such a thing. The category quietly rewrites itself so it can never be wrong. And tell 4 is known as Bulverism. Great word, right? We owe this one to the author C.S. Lewis. See, instead of answering your point, they explain why you're too biased to see straight. They might say something like, you only think that because you're young, or you only think that because you're paid to. Notice the move there? It doesn't show that you're wrong. It skips straight to why you're wrong, which, as Lewis put it, means the actual refutation never happens. Any argument with a built-in reason to ignore everyone who disagrees has stopped being an argument altogether. So, there they are. The sealed vault, the moving goalpost, the no true Scotsman, and Bulverism. 4 different outcomes, one thing underneath, which is a refusal to ever name evidence that could count against them. Oh, and one quick favor, okay? If your brain just replayed a real argument where someone pulled one of these on you, that's the tool working. And the like button honestly helps us reach other people. All right, so back to it. So you're in a real conversation now and you want to use this technique. Well, I've got 3 quick rules for you. First, ask it like you actually mean it. Warm, curious, genuinely open. You say something like, what would change your mind on this? See, if you fire it like a gotcha question and people feel the ambush, well, they're going to dig in. And now what you've done is you've made things worse. Second, listen for speed and specifics. See, a strong thinker answers fast and names something concrete. For example, if the numbers came back the other way, I'd drop this tomorrow. See, when you hear something like that, lean in because you found someone worth actually, learning something from, even if you disagree with them. And that's a green flag. That's not a loss. And third, and this is the one that's going to save your evening, okay, my friend? When they honestly can't answer, stop trying to win because there's nothing there to win. So you're not in a debate at that point. You're watching someone guard territory, and no fact you bring is getting let inside their brain. So say your piece if the room needs to hear it, then let it go. All right, so let's take a step back, my friend, and view the whole thing, the entire room. See, evidence only settles an argument when both parties left themselves a way to be wrong. So the fastest way to tell if a conversation can actually go somewhere is to find out whether evidence is even allowed in the room or the conversation. What would change your mind does that in one line. See, point it at them and you learn whether this is a real conversation or a performance. Point it at yourself and you stay the kind of person other people can actually reason with. Look, if you want to go deeper, the natural next step is my video on active questioning, the fuller set of questions for taking any claim apart. I've got it right here on the end screen or in the description. You can find the link. And I'd also love to hear in the comments, what's the last thing that genuinely changed your mind? And what did it for you? That's the whole skill and one story, my friend. Think sharper, stay sovereign.